Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about the terrible and liberal state of California. California is literally on fire right now, and in addition, they've been having a hard go of it for 2020 for a lot of their own very self-destructive reasons. First of all, it comes down from the top. There's terrible liberal leadership there, starting from the governor named Gavin Newsom. He's one of the key political figures in the state, and he has not done much to help them at all. In fact, he's probably made things worse. But to be fair, he was elected by the great overwhelming majority of the state, who are also Democrats and liberal leaning themselves. So this state is kind of destroying itself on its own. It's voting in liberal leaders who are corrupt and who are not helping, and the state is overpopulated. It's got a lot of pollution and bad situation with infrastructure. And in addition, they've taken this whole 2020 situation harder than most. Now, this has been happening in a number of ways, not just the fires, which recently just started up in the last few weeks, but over the whole year since the pandemic started around March, they've been hit the worst. They've got a lot of people there. They can't control it. And in addition, they've locked down a lot. They've closed a lot of places. They've basically become this sort of ghost town. Hardly anyone can go to work anymore. And that's what's caused a lot of people to consider moving to other states. This has happened in a few ways recently. Specifically, we're talking about YouTubers and internet personalities who have taken their companies and their whole business and moved out of California. This happened previously with Joe Rogan. He's one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He's also a comedian and TV host, and he recently moved his operation to Austin, Texas, citing the bad policy situations in California. He couldn't work. He couldn't feel safe. He has a family. He has interviews to do, podcasts and stuff like that. So Joe Rogan's out. And today we're talking about a new person, a similar person, another prominent internet star named Ben Shapiro. And he has a bigger company, actually. He runs the Daily Wire, which is this news website and blogging channel. He has multiple other shows on his network, and he's taking his 75 employees and leaving California to move to Nashville. I say that's actually a really great move. I actually visited Nashville in the last year, and that's a pretty nice town. It's very classic. It's a little bit southern, but also modern and progressive. It's got a lot of hipster stuff there too. Kind of similar to Austin and Los Angeles and these other big metro places. And yeah, Nashville's pretty cool. The Tennessee state will certainly accept him and be a better place to establish his platform. And that's why we're talking about it today. This is the first tweet I saw about it from Ben himself. He says, "We've been asked over and over again when we would leave California. The answer is now. See you in Nashville, gang." And then there's a Deadline article with more details. This is Ben in this picture, of course. He's a prominent conservative leaning blogger, internet poster. He has a podcast. He has, a news network and all this stuff. So he's very much going to be missed from California. Now, granted, I don't think they're personally going to be affected by it. I don't think they really care when conservative leaning guys or even Joe Rogan leaves the area. Like, they've got plenty of millions of other people there to worry about. But it is a sign that things are rolling in the other direction. It's a sign that California is getting out of vogue. And it's just showing that even these people, these richer people, like these really successful ones that could go on there, like Ben Shapiro and Joe Rogan could have, stayed and bit the bullet and faced all that terrible stuff, but it just doesn't make sense in the long term. Like, why would you? Why would you want to put up with these governments that hate you and these dangerous cities and these police that are, not able to do their jobs, not able to protect your family? You can't work. You've got these leaders always bearing down on you. You've got terrible tax rates. Like, they're taxing you over 30% in California. I mean, it's a mess. I understand why these guys would leave. In fact, I actually recently left California. I couldn't take it anymore either. I just got out a little bit earlier than most of these guys. I left a couple years ago, and I'm not looking back. I do not miss it. I do sometimes think back to the good memories. I had a lot of friends there, and it is a fine state. Like, let's be fair. It's beautiful. It has a lot of beaches and mountains and all kinds of natural, beautiful stuff. It also has a lot of good people. It has the movie industry, music. That stuff's not all bad, but the corruption is just overpowering that. The good has totally been overshadowed by these bad things. And I predict that's why Shapiro left. That's why Rogan left. And also more people will leave soon. The Daily Wire, the conservative media company started by Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring, and Caleb Johnson, plans to move its headquarters from Los Angeles to Nashville. Boring said that the move was being made due to a declining quality of life in the city, including high housing costs and homelessness. The publisher's 75 employees based in Los Angeles are being given till October 1st to decide whether they make the move too, Boring said. He said that it looked like about 80% would make the move. The site has grown substantially since its launch launch in 2015 and was the top publisher on Facebook in July, according to Newswhip. The Ben Shapiro Show has ranked in the top 10 podcasts this year, according to Podtray. So again, a highly successful company choosing to make the big move to a state across the country, very, very far off from California. You know, they're not just going to Arizona or somewhere nearby. They're going way across the country. They're totally changing it up. I think Nashville's a good choice. Like, they're a good kind of new and upcoming city that's more welcoming for companies. From what I've heard too, they've been growing in industries as well. Like I said, I visited a few years ago. I'm familiar with it too. They've been a big hub for like the country music business, for example. And in addition, they have a lot of music people there. Like, a lot of recordings happen in Nashville these days. And it's just a beautiful place. It's got good countryside. There's hills. You know, it has 4 seasons, so there's different kinds of weather. And I think the Shapiro and his family will be happy there. I think his employees that move there will certainly be better off. I don't think his company will be going anywhere anytime soon. It appears they're growing really well. And apparently they're doing well on Facebook is something I've actually heard recently. And actually I've heard pushback. Like, that's one of the reasons Facebook is getting attacked, is because it's supposedly getting dominated by conservative newsmakers. And I'm sure that includes Shapiro and other ones similar to him. But the truth is that places like Facebook get that domination. YouTube used to have it too. It's just because these creators are better. We're speaking the truth more. We're on the right side of history. We have more entertaining shows. And, you know, Shapiro, I'm not trying to lump myself with him right away, but this is the way it happens. That's why I'm seeing success on YouTube and other places. This is why other channels, smaller, larger, you know, that's why people are doing well. It's not because of some kind of conspiracy. Like, people try to pretend Facebook or someone is supporting us. And it's like, no, are you crazy? We're doing this in spite of that. We're doing this despite being silenced and trying to take us down. That's the whole real story. The reasons for the company's plans to move also are political. Boring, who has lived in Los Angeles for the past 20 years, blames city leadership for failing to address the ongoing urban problems, and also cited the state's high income taxes. The dream of California and the weather were enough to draw us all here and keep us here, even when it was hard, he said. But it's hubris to think you can keep making it worse and worse for people, and that somehow the idea of temperate winters will be enough to make them stay forever. He said that he plans to move in November, and much of the staff will follow after that. Now, this is a great point. Now, they already talked about how high housing costs and homelessness were the initial problems, and now it's also political, and it involves them having higher taxes and the state just making things worse and worse. And this, again, I feel a lot of parallels to my story, because I moved to California about 10 years ago. I was there for about 10 years, and this guy's talking about 20. He's obviously like a generation ahead of me, but I saw the same things, and I just got out a little sooner, and, you know, I had my own thing. Different people have different stories, but yeah, it's just, you see it and you go in. If you go in around 2000 or 2010, California was still really appealing. They still had issues, but in the last 10 years, it's gotten dramatically worse, and to the point where it's just like this guy said, they can't just keep making it worse and expect everyone to stay because they have nice winters that aren't that cold. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They just want you to put up with all this stuff, and it got too far. You know, it's like living in another city, like say New York City. They have similar problems with Democratic leadership, and in addition, they're even more like worse with the housing and the safety and the homeless and stuff. And it's just like, people can only put up with so much. Like, I get the appeal of Los Angeles or New York, but it doesn't outweigh people's, you know, there's other better options. There's other cities out there. Nashville is a good choice, for example. Like, they're going to, and I've heard good stories about like Rogan's moving to Texas. Other people have gone to other Midwest states. Like, just starting over in a new area, if your job will permit it, is certainly the better option. LA benefits from the fact that while it leans left, it draws individualists out to find their fame and seek their fortunes. They're an honorary bunch, but they aren't so honorary that this out of control government can break them. He said that they consider moving to Texas, but chose Nashville because it offers the creative talent we need to keep growing the business. We were shocked by the reception when we announced the move, Boring said, but of course, our employees see all the same challenges we see, and it's even harder for them to afford this place. The Daily Wire has been headquartered in Sherman Oaks. Boring and Robinson are co-CEOs, and Shapiro is editor emeritus. Sounds like a fancy title for sure. Let's see if these comments say anything. But before we do that, I think it's just a good sign. Like, I'm very, very happy for this website and these people to move on. It's showing that they're bucking California and pushing things towards a more welcoming area. Nashville is great, like I said. I mean, there's certainly downsides there. There's corrupt politicians too. I think it's even a liberal leaning place. Like, I remember doing a story about their liberal mayor who was corrupt, and there's a lot of that there too, but it's still nicer. It's just like, you know, I could just imagine a place there. We stayed in a house there when we rented an Airbnb, and it was great. I mean, there's older areas too. Like some of it's really old and classic. It's like an older city in some places. And yeah, I think it's good for them. And Nashville has that creative talent. They're an upcoming, like a future kind of possibly like a mini LA or New York. They've got the music industry. They could invite some more news people and other things, movie making and stuff like that. They can lower taxes, and who knows, they could become like the next Atlanta. This is something that happened in Atlanta about 10 years ago. They had a lot of new filming productions there. A lot of people moved there too because it had similar opportunities. It was a similar kind of southern town that was inviting all these businesses, giving them deals, and just a better environment for this kind of creative process. Colin says, really happy for you guys. Teresa says, that's great. This one says, so you're all abandoning ship here in California. Interesting. I think they're abandoning California. The ship is fine. I think, honestly, I would say it too. I would say California is abandoning us. I would say these people tried. We all wanted to make it work. I had that dream one day too of like, going to Hollywood, getting rich, making a movie or something like that. Like, I think a lot of people have thought that, and people still think that, but it's hard. It's hard to really recognize that now. Like, I can't imagine in this day and age, like if I had just graduated college in 2020, I don't think I would be able to move to California. Certainly not this year. I actually had a friend of a friend mention that. They said they're moving to California from the East Coast. And I was just like, why would you do that now? Like, especially at this moment, like if you really had to, maybe wait until next year and see if stuff dies down. But right now they're in a lockdown. There's fires. Everyone's starting to leave. The government is totally corrupt. Things have gone crazy for this election year. So I don't see why anyone would want to go there ever again. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell for notifications too. Until next time, have a great day, y'all.